Good day, folks. Sean here from Air Photography. So one question I get asked repeatedly is, what drone should I buy? After all, there's quite a bit of choice on the market, some really good drones to choose from, and it really can be kind of confusing. Drone prices can range from anything from a few $100s to several thousand with the Mavic 3. And then when you mix in the different types of cameras and features that are available, it can be kind of a complicated process doing your research. So in this video, I'm going to go over my thoughts on which drone is maybe good for what potential user. And I'm going to stick to the most common drones I get asked about: the Mini 2, the Mavic 3, and the DJI Air 2S. Now, the question of which drone you should buy is not an easy one to answer because everybody's budgets are different. Some people can't afford some of the higher end drones, or they don't have the want to spend that much money. On top of that, everybody's needs are different, the features that they're looking for. But if you are in the market to purchase your very first drone, in my opinion, there are three basic questions you need to ask yourself first. The first being, which is I think the most important, and that is budget. The unfortunate part in life, we all have a budget that we need to live by. We may want something like the Mavic 3, but in reality, we may not be able to afford it. And as mentioned, maybe you can afford it, but you just don't want to spend that kind of money if you're just going to be a casual drone flyer. The second important thing you need to consider is regulations in your country. Every country has different drone regulations, and I'm going to use Canada here because that's where I live, and those are the rules and regulations that I'm familiar with. In Canada, if you want to fly a drone that's over 249 grams, so that would be the Air 2S here and the Mavic 3, you have to register the drone with Transport Canada. On top of that, you have to get a pilot certificate. So in Canada, if you don't want to deal with all that, you can purchase something like the Mini 2 because it's under 250 grams. You don't have to register it, and you don't have to get a pilot certificate. On top of that, you can fly it in more places. It's not as heavily regulated. So that can be a very important part of your decision making. You may want something like the Air 2S, but you don't want to deal with all that hassle. So something like the Mini 2 might be your better choice. The third thing you need to consider is the feature set of each drone. What is it that you're looking for out of your drone? Are you a photographer? Are you looking to create nice cinematic videos? Is the camera really important to you? Sensor size? Something like the Mavic 3 here has the best camera that's available for consumers. It also has a variable aperture that can be important to some people. Or is portability a more important feature? Something like the Mini 2 is great for people who hike, travel, and need to pack light. On top of the drone being small, the batteries are extremely small as well. So you're not going to get bogged down with big heavy batteries if you need to bring spares with you. So again, that's another important thing to consider. So let's tackle each one of those components. We'll talk about each drone, the pricing, the feature set, and then at the end of the video, I'll give you my recommendation on which drone I think most people should purchase. Along the way, I'll throw in some sample video clips, and at the very end, I'll do a side-by-side of all three drones to kind of give you a good feel of video quality of each one. So let's talk about the price first. The DJI Mini 2 is the most affordable drone that DJI sells, other than the Tello or the Mini SE, but as mentioned, we're going to keep it to the Mini 2 in this video because that's what I get asked about the most. The base package comes in at $449. That basically gives you the drone, the controller, and one battery. Or you can buy the Fly More combo that gives you some extra spare batteries, a case, and a charging hub. So $450 or basically $600. So that's a pretty good price for what you get. So at those prices, the Mini 2 is definitely affordable for most people. So the next drone DJI sells, their mid-range drone, is the Air 2S, and it comes in at a fairly reasonable price. You can purchase the base package for $999. Again, that includes the drone, controller, and one battery. Or you can purchase the Fly More kit. Again, that comes with extra batteries, charging hub, some ND filters, and a case. So a little bit more money than the Mini 2, but it does have quite a few more features to it, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. Then of course over here we have DJI's flagship drone. This is the Mavic 3, and it is their most expensive consumer drone. The base package comes in at $2,199, and if you want the Fly More kit with the extra batteries, case, and a few extra accessories, you're going to be spending $2,999. Basically $3,000. They also have a version called the Cine version, which basically gives you a built-in SSD drive and is able to record ProRes video. That package comes in at $5,000, and for most people that's a little bit more than they want to spend. So we've talked about the prices here, so the next thing you have to decide are the regulations. And if you live in the US, there's not really a lot of difference between sub 250 gram drones and ones that weigh more. Basically, the difference is you got to spend $5, I believe, on registering it. In Canada, as mentioned, it's a little bit different, and a lot of European countries, again, I think it's a little different. You'll just have to do some research in your own country to find out what the regulations are. But the third thing, as mentioned, is the feature set. This is where it gets a little bit more complicated, and it can be a little bit harder to decide what is the best route for you. Let's start with the Mini 2 here. Now, a lot of people find this drone appealing just because of the price. They don't have to spend a lot of money to get a good quality drone. Even though this is DJI's lowest cost drone, other than the Tello, you would never know it when you're flying in the air. It actually flies really well, and it's comparable to any of the other drones that they sell. It shoots 4K video, and for the most part, the quality is quite good. The only thing that this can struggle in is in low light conditions if you're flying at night, because it does have a fairly small sensor. So if nighttime photography and videography is something important to you, you may want to consider something like the Air 2S or the Mavic 3, because the Air 2S has a 1-inch sensor. This has a 4/3 sensor, so it's going to do a lot better in low light conditions. Now, another important thing to consider about the Mini is that it's very small and very light, and that can be appealing to a lot of people, especially if you're a person who's going to be doing a lot of hiking with their drone, traveling where you need to pack extremely light. Maybe you're a person who does a lot of sightseeing, different things like that. You don't want to be bogged down with a larger, heavier drone. Even though all these drones fold up and are compact, there's a big weight difference, especially when it comes to batteries. The batteries in the Mini 2 are quite small and light, so you can bring several with you, and again, it's not going to bog you down. Now, I own many drones, but quite often when we're heading out on a day trip, I bring the Mini 2 with me, just because it is small and easy. If I put it in a little shoulder bag, it's not a burden to carry around with me for the day, whether I use it or not. Plus, I don't have to worry about some of the limitations of the larger drones. I can pretty well fly it anywhere. And as mentioned, the video quality is pretty good, so I'm usually content with what I can capture with it. Mini 2 has all the basic features that you would want in a drone. You can capture video, take photos, take panoramas, and it does have a few intelligent flight features as well, mainly quick shots, which helps you capture some automated cinematic shots. For the price, it's a good little drone, and you have that added bonus of being under 249 grams if that is an important factor for you. So let's go ahead here and talk about the Air 2S now. As mentioned, this is DJI's mid-range drone, and for what you get, it's actually a really good value. This thing has quite a few upgrades compared to the Mini over there. Most notably here we have obstacle avoidance. The Mini 2 has no obstacle avoidance at all, so that is definitely something to consider. Now, this drone doesn't have obstacle avoidance all the way around it. We have obstacle avoidance at the front here, we have it at the back, and we have 2 obstacle avoidance sensors at the bottom. So this drone is still a little bit vulnerable when flying sideways or when flying upwards. On top of that, we have a big upgrade in the camera compared to the Mini. This has a 1-inch sensor, so if you're going to be filming in low light conditions, you like to capture sunsets, twilight hour, or even at night, this drone is a little bit more capable. On top of that, it can record video at 5.3K, and the quality of video this thing captures is nothing short of incredible. I have flown this drone so much and have always been really happy with the content that it captures. On top of that, it has quite a few intelligent flight features. Now, not everybody makes use of those intelligent flight features, but there's some on there that I really like. Of course, this has quick shots just like the Mini 2, but on top of that, it has something called Focus Track, and that basically has 3 tools built into it. It has tracking, so if you want to track yourself on your bike or motorcycle or a car or just out walking around, you can lock the drone onto yourself and it will track you. It also has an intelligent flight mode called Point of Interest, where you can set a subject in the middle and the drone will just circle around it, capturing video. It looks pretty cinematic, and a lot of people like to make use of that feature. But my favorite mode is something called Spotlight. With Spotlight, you can lock a subject and then just start to fly around. It doesn't matter what direction you head in or how you move the sticks. It's always going to keep your subject in center of the screen. It can allow you to get some pretty interesting dynamic shots without having a lot of piloting skills. On top of that, you can create hyperlapses, and you just have more options when it comes to camera settings. If you want to film in a flat color profile, you can film in D-Log. That allows you to go in and grade your video manually if you like to do that. So definitely some nice features and well worth the upgraded price over the Mini 2. So lastly here we have the Mavic 3. This is DJI's latest drone. It's also their most expensive consumer drone. Now basically when you're comparing this drone to something like the Air 2S, the main difference is the camera and the flight time. This drone is rated to fly for 46 minutes, so basically you're going to get anywhere from 12 to 13 minutes more flight time out of the Mavic 3 compared to the Air 2S or the Mini 2. It's not a big issue for some because after all you can always purchase more batteries, but if you don't want to have to be swapping batteries out quite as often, you want as much flight time as you can, then definitely this is a good choice. However, the big difference is the camera that's included with the Mavic 3. As you can see, it has a dual camera system on it. The bottom camera is a 4/3 sensor, and that top camera is a zoom camera. The top camera allows you to zoom all the way up to 27 times. Now, when you're zoomed in at that 27 times, the footage is decent, but it's not really usable footage that you're going to be filming, making nice cinematic videos. It's mainly used to look around and explore, which is why they call it Explorer mode. but the bottom camera is your workhorse. That's the 4/3 sensor. It can capture 5.1K video, and of course the video quality is phenomenal. But don't let that sway you too much from coming from something like the Air 2S. As mentioned, it has an excellent camera on it, and for the average consumer, whether it has a 1-inch sensor or a 4/3, the difference when filming during the day in good lighting conditions is very minimal. Most people will have a hard time distinguishing between video captured on the Mavic 3 and the Air 2S. The biggest differences is when you're going to be filming in low light scenarios, sunset, twilight, and especially at night. The video from a drone like this is going to look a lot better than something with a smaller sensor such as the Air 2S or the Mini. But at the end of the day, sometimes that price just doesn't justify that bigger sensor. Now when it comes to intelligent flight modes and what this drone is capable, at this current time, at filming of this video anyways, there's no difference between the Mavic 3 and the Air 2S. Now that may change down the road. DJI might introduce new features that are specific to the Mavic 3, but currently at the time of filming this video, there's nothing more that the Mavic 3 can do when it comes to software, intelligent flight modes, other than the zooming, that the Air 2S can't do as well. Now when it comes to obstacle avoidance, the DJI Mavic 3 is capable of omnidirectional obstacle avoidance. And that means it can see in many different directions, unlike the Air 2S that can't see anything from the side or upwards. DJI achieves this with the Mavic 3 using these fisheye style lenses that allows them to detect obstacles in multiple directions. So when flying the Mavic 3, you have protection from the side if you're flying sideways. If you're flying upwards, you'll be protected as well. Now, if you're looking to maybe get into some commercial work, maybe that's one of your objectives when purchasing a drone. Perhaps you want to get into real estate photography or something of that nature. I would definitely stick with something like the Air 2S or the Mavic 3. I have seen people making money with their Mini 2. It definitely is doable, but you're just going to get better quality with one of their higher end drones. Now, as mentioned at the beginning of this video, I'm going to give you my recommendation on the drone that I do recommend the most, and that is the Air 2S. I'd still say it's probably one of my favorite drones. When it comes to getting the most bang for your buck, you can get a really solid drone for $1,000. The video quality is superb. And as mentioned, for most people, they're not really going to notice a lot of difference of content filmed on the Mavic 3. So I'm going to quickly show you some clips here shot on all three drones. It's all of the same subject at a lighthouse that I film at quite a bit. Now just keep in mind these are all filmed on different days, different times of the year. So the lighting conditions are going to be different in every scenario, and that can really affect the quality of the video. But generally it'll give you an idea of what each one's capable of capturing. Just as a closing here, I just want to mention no matter what drone you decide to go with, whether you go with the Mini 2, the Air 2S, or the Mavic 3, you are going to be super happy with your purchase. All three drones are phenomenal for what they offer and for their price point, and you're just going to be really happy. Now, as mentioned, there are other drones on the market that you may want to consider. I just kept it to these three drones because they are the most popular and ones I get asked about the most. The Autel Evo Lite here is also a good contender. The price of it is actually a little steep, and I know that is turning some people away from it, but definitely you may want to take a look at it as well. I do have a full review of it on my channel. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Hopefully it answered any questions that you may have. If there's any questions that you do still have, feel free to ask me down in the comments. I'll try to answer them in a timely fashion. If you enjoyed this video and got some value out of it, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. It's always greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.